If you're an XDA developer member, then you probably appreciate real user control over your devices, and you probably also appreciate full manual control over your cameras, which is something that lacks in many devices such as the new Moto X and LG G3, for example, as well as custom ROMs. What's up, folks? Jared back for XDA Developer TV, and I've put together a short list of the best full manual control camera apps that you'll find on the Play Store. That said, the best isn't always free, so I'll be showing you the paid versions, but you can also download free versions of all three apps with some limitations. So first up is appropriately named a better camera. On the left, aside from the traditional camera switcher and flash on/off buttons, we've got various focus options and exposure compensation, but if you either long press on one of the options or swipe to the right, you actually get access to some other manual controls like the exposure metering mode and grid selections found on DSLR cameras. Under more settings, we've got some typical settings like what resolution you want to shoot with and blah blah blah, but the fun stuff is under viewfinder settings where you get to select all the awesome important information that we need with manual controls to show on the screen. Now back to the viewfinder, on the right is your shooting modes, and as you can see there's pretty much every shooting mode for mobile phones available, even exposure bracketing. Oh, and let's not forget about the dynamic range optimization, which apparently is similar to but better than HDR, and I say apparently because I'm not a pro photographer, so I'm not the best person to make claims on that topic. One thing I'm really confused about with this app is how to enable the different scene modes, because when I swipe to the right and then tap on scene mode, all that's available is auto, but it looks like there's supposed to be more options. So I don't know if it's a hardware limitation of the new Moto X camera, but I can't really see a scene being a limitation of any kind. I don't know, it's a great full-featured camera app, and I'll have a link for you guys in the description below. Alright, next up is Camera FV5, and guys, this one is probably the closest to a DSLR interface you'll find. For instance, look at the top. You get your aperture, exposure compensation, bracketing, and ISO values. But you'll notice at the bottom that my ISO speed is grayed out, telling me that it's a hardware limitation, but that's okay because I still have control over exposure. The top left cog icon gets us to settings, and below that is the program and speed priority modes. Now tap on the menu button and we get a bunch of shooting utilities like exposure bracketing and intervalometer for taking some really sweet long exposure shots and videos, timer, anti-shake, burst capture, and touch to capture. And at the bottom we've got our white balancing, focusing modes, complete with autofocus lock, metering modes, ISO, and exposure compensation. Unfortunately, it doesn't appear that there's an option for auto exposure lock. So overall, it's a pretty badass mobile phone pro camera app, but just like the first and next app I'm gonna show you, if you wanna record video, you're either forced to use the stock native camera app that came with your phone, or in the case of Camera FV5, you can pay and download their Cinema FV5 video recording app. Alrighty, and last up is HD Camera Pro. So this is a weird one, and the reason I say that is because although it has a lot of manual controls, it's not nearly as advanced as the previous two apps I've shown you. And to be totally honest, the settings menu confuses the hell out of me, but I'll get to that in a moment. But the reason I included this app is because we still have exposure compensation, ISO value control, white balance, and scene modes. But what the other two apps I've shown you don't have is a level guide. So instead of dicking around with the bubble or spirit levels on tripods, just like the Panasonic GH4 I'm filming this video with right now, all you have to do is look at the nice and big level guide. And if you haven't already noticed, aesthetically speaking, it looks a lot nicer on the eyes than the other two apps do. Anyways, so we've got the settings icon at the top middle left, flash, filters, and the grid toggle, which is also how you toggle the level guide on and off. There's a pause button on the furthermost left side of the viewfinder, which I thought was kind of weird. I mean, I guess I can see people using it, but practically speaking, I'm not really 100% sure why. Now sliding your finger up on the viewfinder zooms in, and sliding to the right adjusts the exposure, and just under the shutter button is a little camera icon that toggles between the different shooting modes. And so, as I mentioned before, the settings menu confuses me because if you look, the first section is where all the main camera settings live, but the next section is where we adjust the resolution of the main rear camera, and just below that section is where I think we adjust the resolution of the front-facing camera. Okay, fine, that makes sense, but when I go back to the viewfinder, see that little sound or volume icon just above the shutter button? Well, that's supposed to be the shutter sound on-off toggle, but when I press it, it changes the bloody resolution to the 2.1 megapixels that I set in the settings. Why? Why would I ever want to shoot at 2.1 megapixels with my rear 13 megapixel camera? But aside from the minor limitations compared to the other two apps, as well as the confusing shutter sound toggle that apparently pointlessly changes the rear camera resolution to mimic the front camera, it's a pretty decent camera app, and I think it's probably best suited for people that may not care as much about having as close to a DSLR experience on their mobile phone as possible, but still want or need an upgrade over the stock camera app they're currently using. So anyways, what would a pro camera app video be without a bunch of sample images, right? But just before I roll them, I just wanted to point out that when I went out to go test all three apps, it was a really rainy day, so lighting was as bad as it gets for outdoor shooting. That said, regardless of the lighting conditions, I thought all three apps did a fantastic job. Well, that's it for me. Hopefully you liked this video, and if you did, show some XDA love and punch that like button. And if you're new here, you probably won't want to miss out on any of our future videos, so don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Also, links for everything in this video can be found in the description below, and as usual, sound off in the comments section with your favorite camera apps. But thanks as always for watching, and I'll talk to you all in the next one. Cheers.